Okay, so one is that. Second thing is presentation. How important is presentation according to you? कोई special proponents के नाम नहीं लिखे, कोई special instruments के नाम नहीं लिखे, कोई special poems के नाम नहीं लिखे, poets के नाम नहीं. Nothing is there. Referendums are portrayed as popular governance in its purest form. However, it is also argued that they often subvert democracy. मतलब it is like reading a magazine. मतलब आपने बस पढ़ते गए and you can make sense of everything and the coherence is excellent. And everywhere the examiner is checking every copy. The moment he's flipping the pages, he would say, अच्छा ये भी ठीक है, चल ले number ले. 2 to 5 वो लिखा है. Then again 5 o'clock your paper gets over. 5:30 you're out. You reach your home by 7:30. You barely have your dinner. It's time to sleep because again next morning you have to wake up. Okay, good afternoon everybody. Welcome to this session on answer writing. How many of you are planning to appear in 2025? Okay, rest of you 26 and 27, anybody? For the first attempt? 26, alright. Okay, very nice. So, have you all started your preparation? Since this is an open session, I am assuming you're not just students of Vision IS. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, alright. Yes, I recognize you. Alright. Okay, so this is an open session on answer writing. My first question to you is, have you ever written any answer? Where? Okay, alright. Apart from that? Assignments, alright. Rest of you have not written any answer? Have you not given the board exams? Then my question was, have you written any answer? Of course, you've been writing answers all your life, right? There's nothing unusual about it. You've been writing all your answers all your life and that is why you're here, right? You're graduates, you've passed 10th, 12th, and that's on account of some skill that you already have in answer writing. And we have to understand that how those years of practice that you have put in your answer writing, right from school days, right from the time you started to learn to hold the pen, you have to understand how you have to use that power, how it has to be leveraged for this examination. Okay? So answer writing, according to you, what is a good answer? Meeting the demand of the question. That means first thing is, a good answer is an answer that answers the question. Otherwise, it's not a good answer if it's not answering the question. So first and foremost, we have to understand the question. You know, what is the demand of the question? What is it that the question really says? Just like I asked you, have you ever written any answer? It was not in the context of UPSC. The question was any answer ever, right? This is one skill that we have to refine when we are going for this exam. We have to read the question very, very carefully, whatever is put to us, whether it is in the mains or it is in the personality test. Alright, the art of understanding a question is also a separate art. Okay, so one is that. Second thing is presentation. How important is presentation according to you?
Online classes offer convenience, but serious aspirants know that UPSC success demands structure, focus, and personal support, found only in physical classrooms. Classroom learning enables real-time interaction, ensuring no question goes unanswered. This immediate feedback fosters a deeper understanding and builds confidence. After-class interactions with faculty turns doubts into discussions and guidance into growth. These personal moments are the stepping stones to your UPSC success. Peer discussions in classrooms foster collaboration, critical thinking, and camaraderie, qualities essential for UPSC success. Classroom tests mirrors the intensity of the UPSC exam with real-time supervision and in-depth evaluations. Every test becomes a learning experience. Mock interviews in classrooms recreate the pressure of UPSC interviews. With constructive feedback, aspirants refine their responses and build confidence for the real test. A structured environment keeps you disciplined and focused. With fixed schedules and personal accountability, classrooms ensure you stay on track. Faculty members regularly interact with their peers, ensuring students get diverse perspectives on complex subjects. This enriches the learning process and keeps the curriculum dynamic and relevant. Classrooms don't just teach, they inspire. Step into the world with confidence and turn dreams into milestones.
So is it all about presentation? Like he said, that it's not as much important as the content, and maybe sometimes even similar content with different presentation will fetch you better marks if the presentation is better. Is that true? Is that true? Okay. Have you heard this story of Kalidas? What do you know about Kalidas? He was a great poet in the court of which city? Chalo Raja nahi to. The king of Vikramaditya of Ujjain. Okay. And he was basically a normal village person who had absolutely no knowledge, nothing. Okay. And the daughter of King Vikramaditya, her name was Vidyotama. She was a very learned princess. She thought very highly of herself. And she thought, I will only marry a guy or a man who is more wise and learned than me. So she declared this, that I will only marry a person who I feel is fit for my, as a suitable partner, and he has to be more learned than me. And of course, she was a little high-headed. So all the ministers conspired against her, and they decided, let's get the biggest fool to marry her. So what they did, the ministers went around the kingdom, and they saw a man who was sitting on the branch of a tree and cutting it. So they thought, isse bada murkh nahi ho sakta. There can't be a bigger fool than this, right? So what they did was, they told Kalidas that you come. That was of course Kalidas. They told him, you come with us to the palace. Just don't open your mouth. Okay, do anything but just don't open your mouth. So the deal was struck. He was taken to the palace, and Vidyotama was told that he's a very great, learned, wise man, but his only condition is he will not open his mouth, he will talk in actions. Vidyotama said, okay. So she pointed one finger, saying, God is one. She basically meant, like the one supreme being. Kalidas thought, oh really, she's showing me one finger, I'll give her two. I'll poke it in both her eyes, out of vengeance. So the ministers who were there, they said, ma'am, you have interpreted one finger as there is only one being, and our great learned man here says that there is one God and then there is one individual, Atma and Paramatma. All right. So she was very impressed. Yes, that is true. Acha. Then she thought, let me also ask one more question. She showed him 5 fingers. Okay. And 5 fingers, she meant that the 5 senses that the humans have: hear, touch, smell. So she showed him 5 fingers. And he said, how dare she show me a slap? He thought she's showing me a slap. She's about to slap me. He thought, why? Okay, if she's showing me a slap, I'll show her a fist. I'll give her a good punch. That is what he thought. And he did this. So the ministers, of course, they had to make some interpretation. So they said, ma'am, you're talking about the 5 senses, and he's talking about niyantran, or control of the 5 senses. So again, she was very impressed. She thought, yes. And then eventually all this went on, and finally, by hook or by crook, Vidyotama married Kalidasa. Of course, not too far away, she got to know that he's actually a fool. Okay? And she threw him out of the palace. And of course, that is when Kalidas had a revelation that I must become learned and all. And after that, he was basically a bhakt of Kali, Ma Kali, and that is the name by Kalidas. And then he, of course, became a great poet and learned. So what does this tell us? What does this story tell us? It tells us that it is not always the content. It is not always the content. It is how you present the content that also makes a lot of difference. Presentation matters. Interpretation matters. There is nothing about this exam that you already don't have an idea about. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Issues, what are plaguing our country, our cities, what we understand. This is an issue-based exam, right? Most of the questions revolve around problem solution, pros and cons of everything. There is nothing that you already don't know. What you don't know is the finer points. For example, if I talk about problem of urbanization in India, can you tell me what are the problems related to urbanization in India? Pollution, overcrowded or overpopulated, cramped slums, very good, or lack of resources, crumbling infrastructure, overcrowding, or migration issues, lack of employment opportunities in rural areas, right? Or अच्छा दिल्ली के बारे में सोचो, think about Delhi. Traffic problems, drainage problems. There is nothing that you already don't know. And this is what is the demand of this examination. पहले तो इस दिमाग से वो जो big हवा है about UPSC, just remove that. Okay, this is a simple examination in the sense that whatever is being asked in the exam is contemporary, is related, and is you are already aware of those issues, more or less. All right. The only thing is what makes a good answer stand out from an average answer. ये answer तो हमने भी लिख लिया, ये answer even a 10th class student can write. But what will make it different is data. What will make it different is statistics. If I am talking about, let's say, urbanization, I can talk about the proportion of urbanization. I can talk about solid waste management, right? I can talk about density of cities. The data, the examples, the case studies, that additional fodder material is what you mostly lack in your preparation, which does not lead to that extra 1 or 2 marks in the exam. What is the average score that a topper scores out of 10? 5. Average 5 है, ठीक है? Even the best of the toppers, rank 1, they have a score of about 50-55% in this exam. So an average answer would have, let's say, 3.5 marks or so, and a topper would have about 5 marks. Okay, that 1.5 mark का जो difference है, that will come through 1, proper structuring of the answer, 2, good examples with case studies and relevant points, more specifics. So for example, names of committees, articles, right? Supreme Court verdicts, something more specific. Generic, everybody is writing. So what you have to do for this examination is, when you are preparing, sit down with the syllabus, decode the syllabus into its constituent parts as to, for example, let's say we're talking about urbanization. What are the different problems related to urbanization? Are there any case studies? For example, Kanpur is a case study in solid waste management. Indore is a case study in solid waste management. All right, mention about them. Talk about how the plastic waste. So everything is related. You need to just have the specifics related to it, and that is what is required in this examination. Okay. So on this note, we are starting this class on answer writing. First and foremost, before I begin, I just want to show you the correlation between toppers' marks. All right, this is what variation has been in the toppers' marks. Top 25 ranks, how they have scored in general studies. All right, so almost everybody has been scoring about 400, 30, 20. This is the average score. All right, this is how toppers have scored, top 25 ranks. And what we already know very well is that to every answer there is an introduction, body and conclusion. We know that very well. All right. We are going to decipher the different kinds of introduction, the different content of how it can be presented, different kinds of presentation skills, and finally different kinds of conclusion that can be there in an answer. The key element of this particular session will be how to write a good answer when you don't know much content. When you already know content, of course, that should be reflected. But even if you don't know content, much content, I'm not saying zero content, but even if you're not very confident in your content, still you can give a good answer. So let's behave like an examiner for some time. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of UPSC examiner and see if I had to evaluate an answer, how would it be? All right. We'll read one question. The question says, with examples, discuss how the cultural traditions from various regions of India get reflected in regional music. Reread the question. What does the question say? How the cultural traditions, that means how the cultural traditions are reflected in the regional music. Okay. Now this is one answer copy. All right. Then the answer says, music as an art form has been practiced. Of course, the handwriting is not very legible. It's not too comfortable to read, but we'll still give it a pass. Okay. Music as an art form has been practiced and performed in India since time immemorial. Amir Khusro is considered to be the proponent for bringing Persian cultural music to India and thus beginning the reflection of culture in Indian music. Okay, Khayal music. That basically he's talking about Khayal music here. Then this candidate goes on to talk about Carnatic music performed in the southern states often represents with performing and coupled with dances. Okay, so Carnatic music is coupled with dances. Then he talks about Gundicha brothers, proponents of Dhrupad music. Then he talks about some international music here. Music and culture go hand in hand as it reinforces energy, passion and enthusiasm. Okay, music varies, all right. He talks about instruments. Then again Carnatic music, he says, is performed in the southern states with use of sitar, veena and classical music. Example, M.S. Subbalakshmi, and which is often devoted to God and is spiritual in nature. Northern states, Punjab, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh have other renowned artists such as Birju Maharaj and Zakir Hussain. And thus music represents culture, society and inspires people at an emotional level and stimulating and bringing the society closer. This is the conclusion. This is a 10-marker question. How much marks would you give to this candidate? 3, 4, 4, 4 is okay? Okay, let's read one more answer copy. Alright. India's rich and diverse cultural traditions are most evident in the regional music of its motherland. So there is a map in which northern states is Pahadi Geet, Himalayan states is Pahadi Geet, northern is Hindustani, then Rajasthan is Mirabhai's Bhajan, Assam is Shankar Dev's Bhavna, then tribal music somewhere in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and Carnatic music in the south. And it says, okay, reflection of cultural traditions. So Carnatic three Ratna, who reflected their religious and cultural aspects of society, that is Tyagraj, Muttuswami and Shama Sastri. Okay. Persian influence on Hindustani music is visible in its system of gharanas. There is Bhakti movement which talks about ending caste differences, Mirabhai's Bhajan for devotion to Krishna, tribal music which talks about oneness with nature, example at sacred groves, and exhibits their daily activities. There is Pahadi Geet in the Himalayan states which reflects their way of life, Chamoli district, Uttarakhand, and then the conclusion goes on to talk about a recent proposal for Museum for Carnatic Music, and later on it is read that the music must be protected with, it should be introduced in school curriculum, it should be encouraged with NCC, NSS and so on and so forth. So that is how the answer is concluded. Now give marks to this answer. Why? Only presentation. Handwriting. Okay. Presentation of northern and okay, southern states. So northern and southern, तो इसने भी बोला था. He had also separately mentioned about Carnatic music in the southern states, and then northern was written separately in another paragraph. Content is very similar. Map include कर लिया. Okay. Sorry. Way forward is very specific. एक current affairs से एक example दे दिया. Good. Okay, but was the demand of the question कि music कैसे change हो रहा है from north to south or east to west? I'll tell you the main difference between the two answers. Content wise there's not much difference. Maybe one or two names extra here related to, let's say, Carnatic Three Ratna or something. Okay? Maybe, or just content is more or less the same. The second candidate has understood the demand of the question. Demand of the question was that discuss how cultural traditions from various regions. एक तो से ये समझ आ गया कि question talks about various regions of India. So my answer should talk about various regions. All right, number one. And it talks about how it gets reflected the societal how it gets reflected in the music. So for example, अगर उसने भक्ति मूवमेंट की मीराबाई की बात की है तो कास्ट डिफरेंसेस मेंशन किया, ट्राइबल म्यूजिक मेंशन किया तो रिलेटेड टू डेली एक्टिविटी एंड वननेस विद नेचर. Alright, Persian influence, of course, system of gharanas. Content wise, knowledge wise, there is not much difference between the two answers. The second candidate has understood the demand of the question कि question चाहता है कि मैं region wise बताऊं and उसे link करूं with the socio-economic or the socio-cultural aspects of that region. ऐसा नहीं कि बहुत ज़्यादा किया है, ये तो even you can write. Tribal music talks about nature, right? Mirabai's bhajans, let's say they can talk about eliminating caste differences. You already know this. There is nothing specific about it which you don't know, right? Pahadi Geet reflects their way of life. This is just English. This is not any point. This, my friends, is the answer copy of rank 1 Ishita Kishore. What is your key takeaway from this? First and foremost, सबसे important जो मैं honestly I am telling you, which I have repeatedly seen in all answer copies of toppers, is that you have to address the question. Okay, this answer here is super hodgepodge. Points are almost 70-80% the same. पहले यहाँ पे कर्नाटक म्यूजिक की बात की, फिर दोबारा थोड़ी देर बाद कर्नाटक म्यूजिक आ गया. It is not structured. It is as if somebody is just thinking out loud और जो points आते जा रहे हैं is writing as it goes. But that's not the case. Here this is a well structured and thought out answer. That I have to think about the various regions of India. Whatever I can mention, this person also doesn't know too much about the कोई special proponents के नाम नहीं लिखे, कोई special instruments के नाम नहीं लिखे, कोई special poems के नाम नहीं लिखे, poets के नाम नहीं, nothing is there. But has applied her common sense to understand that, okay, if I can divide the different types of regions of India, where all which kind of music is there, I can definitely link an answer. And attempt kiya hai question. This is the biggest problem that we face as newcomers. There's a lot of inertia. If I had given you this question in the first place, you would have thought, मैंने तो पढ़ा ही नहीं. I have not prepared this topic. How can I attempt? This question does not require very solid preparation. Look, the more content you have, of course it gets better. But that does not mean you cannot attempt altogether. Okay? That fine tuning of your answers ना, कि थोड़ा एक example दे दिया, एक चीज़ के बारे में लिख दिया, that is where newspaper reading comes in. Because when you read newspapers on a daily basis, your general awareness increases. आपको छोटे छोटे points याद आते रहते हैं कि oh, I had read about this, so I can write this as an example. That is what has to be done. Alright? So understood? So rather than I would say कि it was not so much about presentation, map को भी मैं इतना weightage नहीं दूंगी. I will say the person has understood the demand of the question, and if you look closely, she has clearly talked about discuss how cultural traditions from various regions in India get reflected. And she has used reflection of cultural traditions. Same words, rephrased what was written in the question. So anybody who's reading the answer will invariably at the back of his mind, subconsciously, intuitively know that the question is being answered. Here points might be similar, but I will not know the question is being answered. Clear? So this is the most important thing. Okay, you all have your assignment sheets. Please attempt one question. I'll give you 5 minutes to write the answer. Your time starts now. Done? Time up. How many of you were not able to finish the answer? Oh, almost everybody. Okay. If I give you 1 more minute, हो जाएगा? नहीं, तो भी नहीं होगा. So first and foremost, what is our understanding? Speed. Okay. But more than speed, obviously there is a limit to the speed that you can have. ऐसा तो है नहीं कि you will start writing like a robot the very next day. It will depend on the number of words you use in an answer. So you have to be more crisp, with your answers. That means maybe you're writing too long sentences, too verbose, which is not required. Okay? Alright. Let's do one thing. Let's first discuss the question. Alright? And then you can self-evaluate your answers. Alright? So tell me, what are some of the socio-economic significance? We'll divide. What is the introduction you can write to this answer? India is a very diverse country. Okay. Or you can define harvest festivals. Correct. Very good. So you have mentioned the names of different harvest festivals that are there in India. Okay. Huh? It is a long-lived tradition. Okay. Agriculture and its contribution to Indian society. Okay, you have, that is your introduction. Just read it out.
Overwhelmed by the vast UPSC syllabus, it's time to transform that stress into strategy with our all-in-one GS Foundation course. Break down every subject from prelims and mains to CSAT and essay and demystify current affairs through PT 365 and Mains 365. At Vision IS Delhi, we are more than just educators. We are your mentors on the path to success. Here's how we empower your UPSC journey. Complete syllabus mastery. Get a step-by-step roadmap covering every topic you need to conquer the exam. Simplified current affairs. Stay ahead with sessions that turn complex news into clear, actionable insights. Tailored mentorship. Enjoy personalized one-on-one guidance to sharpen your strengths and overcome your challenges. Continuous progress tracking. Regular tests and detailed feedback ensure you are always moving forward. Your dream of joining the civil services is within reach. With our expert faculty and proven strategies, every lecture, every discussion and every practice test is designed to build your confidence and competence. Batches starting from 4th March at 2 p.m, 25th Feb at 5 p.m. and 21st Feb at 11 a.m. at Karol Bagh and 25th Feb at 6 p.m. at GTB Nagar. To know more, visit our website or call us on the given numbers.
Okay, as follows में कितने points हैं? 3 points. Quickly read the heading. Okay, I would say first and third point are the same. Anyway, acha, ठीक है, good. Now let's do one thing. Let's first write down what according to you are the let's talk about the social significance first and then we'll talk about the economic. Okay, how many of you have divided your answer into social alag and economic different separately? Rest of you have not. Okay, now this is one key takeaway, that whenever a question has been asking you relatively 2 points, because the social contribution will be different and economic will be different, we have to separate it. Okay, because you can write two distinct kinds of points in the two. Okay, all right, social batao. What is it? Promotes unity. Promotes unity among people. Okay, unity of culture. Okay, fine. Then okay, okay, all right. Let's say it promotes unity among classes. All right, different classes. और एक ही बात है, वो ये सब सेम ही पॉइंट चल रहे हैं. You can, this again, this is what happens in the exam. When you write same thing, you are talking about unity in this also, you are talking about unity in this also, and then in mutualism also is just about unity. So when the examiner is reading your answer, he will feel you are just beating around the same bush. You have to bring in unique points. What was the answer of Ishita Kishore like? Her point unique tha. It was not exact replica of the other. Correct? और बताओ सोशल में और क्या है? Platform to celebrate. Okay, you can say that it celebrates the bounty of nature. So basically you celebrate nature, correct? Next is green revolution. Why? You tell me. तुम्हारा आंसर कंप्लीट हुआ? तो फिर तुम क्यों ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन लिखोगे? Why will you talk about green revolution when you're not even about to, you're not able to write about socio-economic? Please, this is exactly the mistake that we make in the exam. Just because हमें agriculture से related we are able to recollect the points of green revolution does not mean you will write green revolution. The question is talking about harvest festivals. This is an art and culture question. This is not an economics question. Significance of harvest festivals. You are talking about festivals here. Festivals की क्या significance है तुम्हारी life में? ना हो, imagine there are no festivals. What would happen? There is no spirit, okay, unity or culture, या फिर no spirit of brotherhood. ठीक है? Then rituals will go away. Where will all the rituals go? What are the rituals like? Tell me some ritual related to Makar Sankranti. Where is Makar Sankranti? What is it famous for? Which region of the country? Yes. And in Gujarat and Rajasthan it is associated with kite flying. तो ये सारे rituals कहाँ चले जाएंगे? Right? So there are certain, so preservation of rituals. This is its socio-economic relevance. Then spiritual connection. Spiritual connection. We pray to God. Okay? For example, Gudi Padwa. Gudi Padwa कहाँ का है? Maharashtra. Okay? This starts on the first day of Navratri. There's a praying of the goddess. Okay? So that is, so spiritual connection. हाँ, बिल्कुल. You can talk about any ritual. You can talk about any connection. So the problem is here is that when we are thinking of examples. Okay? It is a human mind thing. That is how it works. Whenever a question will be given to you about harvest festivals, you will start thinking about the harvest festivals. But तुमको ये सोचना है कि तुम harvest festival में करते क्या हो? What do you do? All right, and then come to the generic points of it. So, for example, your food preferences. For example, Makar Sankranti is related with til gud, correct? Then costumes. Your traditional dresses, correct? All this is linked with harvest festival. Which part of it don't you already know? You already know it. So what you are telling me are examples. तो करना क्या है? You just have to write each of these points और इनके साथ example करना है. For example, spirit of brotherhood में लिख दो लोहड़ी celebration. Okay, where the entire community comes together around a bonfire and they celebrate. Then celebrating the bounty of nature, let's talk about Baisakhi. ठीक है? Rituals में like you mentioned, example, Pongal. What did Ishita do in her answers? This is the structure of the answer. Point, example, point, example, point, example. But all the points are unique. Our problem is our points are revolving around the same thing about unity, brotherhood and all that. We have to talk about God, spiritual connection. We have to talk about preservation of rituals or Indian culture, right? All these things, food, costume, everything, all this is related, isn't it? अच्छा, अभी economic बताओ. Stabilize income. Okay, so can I say increase in demand? Yes. Kites की बहुत डिमांड बढ़ जाती है तो rather than I'm talking about just one type of commodity increase in costumes or increase in decoration or whatever, irrespective of that, you can say there is an increase in trade and commerce. Correct? Reflect agriculture or agricultural growth. ठीक है? Which means agricultural growth would basically means nutritional security. क्योंकि आपका क्रॉप हार्वेस्ट हो रहा है, people are getting food. जब क्रॉप हार्वेस्ट होगा, मान लो गेहूं है, okay, और which is usually around बैसाखी, it gets ready. So it comes in the market, बेचने के लिए आती है, उसका ट्रेड बढ़ता है, ठीक है? So it provides nutritional security also to the country, economic benefit है वो. और tourism, very good. Tourism and hospitality. Motivation is not economic. क्या गड़बड़ हो रहा है? सब अब economic terms में सोचना है. Money. ठीक है? Think about rupee. इस पैसे, इस कंटेक्स्ट में सोचो, पैसा कहाँ घूम रहा है? सॉरी, agricultural and allied activities you can say. Okay, so for example, there will be growth of industries which are dependent on agriculture, है ना? Right? Okay, so industrial growth. Then also labor, wages, usually around the time of April, lot of wages increase. ठीक है, बहुत सारा जो labor होता है, they go back to their villages, especially from urban areas, because वो कटाई का season होता है, harvest का season, and that time they get a good amount of wages for harvesting the crop. Okay, so labor wages increase. In fact, this would rather be another point, but ठीक है. Okay. Surplus in food reserve on the country, very good. ये इसी में ही आ जाएगा. हाँ, करेक्ट. बट अभी हमको क्वेश्चन क्या पूछ रहे? पॉजिटिव सिग्निफिकेंस, उसका इम्पोर्टेंस क्या है? तो उसका हमें इम्पोर्टेंस ही बताना है. सेंसिटिविटी ऑफ इंडियन इकोनॉमी. हाँ, करेक्ट. इन्फ्लेशन, यू कैन से दिवाली के आसपास इन्फ्लेशन इज रियली हायर, राइट? प्राइसेस ऑफ थिंग्स गो हायर, सो येस, यू कैन लिंक इट विद दैट ऑल्सो. राइज इन जनरल प्राइस इंडेक्स, हालांकि उल्टा होना चाहिए. व्हेन द प्रोडक्शन इज हायर, अगर अच्छा हार्वेस्ट हुआ है तो प्राइसेस विल रादर गो डाउन. ठीक है? ओके, सो यू कैन से मे बी you can just say rise or link with general price index. Okay, general prices, और वो trade एंड कॉमर्स ही हो गया. और हाँ, एलाइड एक्टिविटीज़ में आ गया, लेबर, इंडस्ट्रियल, मशीनरी. अब देखो क्या हो रहा है, you are getting enough time to think about an answer. You can write an essay on this topic. I am not contesting that. The point is within the given time limit, space limit, word limit, are you able to write these points with examples or not? Okay. One more thing you can write here is, for example, trade in crafts, handicrafts and trade. ठीक है, हार्वेस्ट फेस्टिवल में okay, this also increases. Artisans are promoted, local artisans are promoted. जैसे again नवरात्रे और इसमें these या दिवाली पे you can say Diwali was not a harvest festival. नवरात्रों में for example those मटकास, मिटकी, you know, earthen pots, उनका production बढ़ जाता है. So point is not कि तुम्हें आता है कि नहीं आता है. Given sufficient amount of time, anybody can think of unique 5-6 points in each of these. The challenge is in writing those points under the examination stress and then writing 20 such answers. ये है challenges exam का. Okay, so that is why everybody keeps telling you practice answer writing, because it's not just about writing a good answer. One good answer is easier to write. 20 good answers is not easy to write. What matters is how much you are able to recollect in a short span of time. Correct? कितना जल्दी आप उससे related क्या क्या information recollect कर सकते हो, and then how you can structure it. Okay? So tell me, when I posed this question to you, how did you think about it? क्या सोचा तुमने? Naturally, the first thought that would have come up in your mind is, what are the different harvest festivals of India? Right? कुछ नाम याद आए होंगे, some related. बैसाखी, बिहू, पोंगल, सब नाम याद आए. And then you would have thought कि अच्छा इसमें होता क्या है, उस फेस्टिवल में what is the thing? These are things that you already know. You should just know how you can write it into different structured points. अब अगर सोशियो है तो हमें ठीक है स्पिरिट ऑफ यूनिटी और ये सब यूनिटी वाला एक पॉइंट हमने कर दिया. वी आर सेलिब्रेटिंग नेचर हियर. नेचर का सेलिब्रेशन इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम यूनिटी. दीज आर यूनिक पॉइंट्स. Rituals is different from nature, is different from unity. Correct? Spiritual connection is different from all of these. These are unique points. The issue with the answer was we are repeating the point. That should not happen. Unique points, 4-5 bhi likh lo, and with that if you write an example, that's it. That is all that is required. And this will come with repeated practice of writing different answers. Different types of question आया, फिर उसके बारे में सोचा. And there will always, you will always feel lack of content. All toppers do, trust me. There is not even a single topper till date जो बोलेगा कि I was 100% confident in all the questions of the paper. That can never happen. Even if you have about, let's say, 20 questions in the paper, 20 में there will be 3 or 4 maximum which will be thoroughly prepared. At least 2 to 3 will be total zero, कि कुछ नहीं पता, I am not sure क्या करना है इसमें. At least, and this happens every year. Rest of the questions will be somewhere in between, that you will have some idea about it, but you will not know exactly what to do. But still you can structure it and at least you can write a good answer. In the sense, at least you can present it in a way that it looks more informative, rather than a hodgepodge. Okay? Now let's do one thing. You have your notebooks. We've only given you one assignment sheet. Take 3 minutes now. 3 minutes. I'm not giving you 5. Take 3 minutes and rewrite this answer. Take 3 minutes and rewrite this answer. We'll go back to the question. And there is no UPSC does not pose any restriction on how you're writing the answer. Presentation नहीं matter करता. You can write a table, you can write a flow chart, you can write bubble diagram, कुछ भी कर सकते हो. Remember that. Okay? It is not in the length of words. It's clearly mentioned that it's not the length of the words that matter, it's the content, what you're saying, that makes the difference. Okay? Your time starts now. Done? 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 Okay, now tell me, how many of you were able to complete the answer? 1, 2. Almost completion भी चलेगा. Almost completion is also okay. ऐसा नहीं कि last में एक पूरा concluding remark चाहिए. You've written the socio-economic factors or not? All of you. Socio भी लिख लिए, economic भी लिख लिए. Correct? लिख लिया ना? That means you have covered 80% of the answer. Maybe last की एक line concluding was missing. Now you tell me what you could not do earlier in 7 minutes, you were able to do it in 3 to 4 minutes now. What was the difference? A, preparation. Because you had just, there's a recency bias, right? You had just seen the points fresh top of your mind. You could easily answer it. Second is, you knew that I have to divide this question into 2 parts, social and economic. I have to write these social points and then I have to write about economic. So this tells you what? One, a good preparation. Good preparation means in which you understand that what are the different points that can be included in an answer. Okay? Now, even if I now give you a very new question, something which is not related to this harvest festivals, even then you will be able to write a better answer than what you were doing earlier. Why? Because you have understood, one, the demand of the question is important, that has to be met. Two, the points have to be written at a faster speed rather than writing lengthy verbose sentences. This is not an essay. This is an answer. So you just have to pick up what the question is asking, recollect whatever points that you can, 1, 2, 3, example 1, 2, 3, incorporate a map, great. If you can't, then also it's okay. How many of you, anybody who drew a map? Very good. ठीक है? बस यही करना है एग्जाम में. और this also tells you, this exercise also tells you how preparation has to be done. Doesn't it? It tells you how preparation has to be done. ऐसा नहीं है कि you just have to read the books, एक के बाद एक books पढ़े जा रहे हैं और कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा है, फिर दोबारा blank हो जाता है सब कुछ कि क्या लिखना है इसमें. ऐसा नहीं करना है. Whenever you are reading any book, any chapter, any topic, whichever subject, you need to know that if there is a question from this page in this book, what are the important points that I will write? For example, let's say there is a question on the President of India. Okay, what is the role and function of the President of India? 5 points, 5 to 6 points. जो भी वो President of India का chapter है, just pick that up. Main उसमें जो highlights हैं 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the points that I can talk about. This is the main role of the President of India. Okay, for example, let's talk about some example in geography. Alright, let's talk about cloudburst. Okay, cloudburst, there was a question last year on cloudburst. So first, what is a cloudburst? How is it different from rainfall? Okay, so that means definition of cloudburst. Then causes, what could be the reasons behind increasing frequency of cloudbursts? Okay, climate change, extreme weather events. Then I will talk about the impact of the cloudburst, flooding, urban flooding. I can talk about different things, loss to life, damage and property, everything. Then I can think about the possible solutions or any schemes that the government is related to that particular thing. Okay, so for example, Ministry of Earth Sciences has increased the number of Doppler weather radars stationed in India. So that will give us early warning. So earlier when we used to have, we will now have real-time warning systems. All right. पहले होता था forecasting. That means पहले से ही you are assuming, you are trying to interpret that what will be the weather. Now we are doing nowcasting. That is what is going to happen within the next 1 hour, not next day or next 2 days. 1 hour में क्या होने वाला है? Because cloudburst is something that can happen. The situation can develop at a very faster pace. Like within 1 hour, you can have the situation come up in such a manner that there will be heavy rainfall for the next 2 hours, and that is cloudburst. Understood? So the questions have automatically once you start writing answers, your preparation also changes the way you are going to prepare for this exam. Because it tells you that what is important and what is not important. That is what has to be understood. Okay. Now we'll take a deeper look at some of the elements that are there in this answer writing. No problem. Okay, let's talk about introductions. Now, you have written some introduction in your answer, Harvest Festival, and one conclusion also, maybe one concluding remark. That would have meant around 10% of the number of words or time it would have taken, right? So your conclusion and your introduction, although they take about 10 to 15% of your time and word limit, but still they are of great importance. Why? Because your introduction tells the examiner that you have understood the demand of the question. For example, अगर वो harvest वाले questions में, if you had started your introduction with green revolution, I as an examiner would have struck it there and maybe मैं आगे भी नहीं पढ़ती, because I would have realized you have not understood the demand of the question. So the importance of introduction lies in the fact that it tells the examiner that I have understood what you are asking. Time and again you will see, I will show you toppers answer copies in which they have merely rephrased the question in introduction, just to convey it to the examiner that yes, I have understood, like we saw it in Ishita's copy. Okay, so different types of introduction can be, let's say I talk about definition. For example, let's say I talk about the definition of cloudburst, okay? Or if there is a referendum, I talk about the definition of referendum. What is a referendum? So if there is any term, or let's say there is any particular event, you can talk about the definition of that. Recent event, something that has recently happened. So for example, let's say we can talk about the recent discussion between US and Ukraine. Yes. So in the backdrop of that, some events must have unfolded. A question on international relations related to that can be asked. So recent event, that means you are giving some sort of the reference to something that happened recently. You can talk about a report, all right? So for example, again, if there is a question on desertification, we can talk about the recent report on desertification by UNCCD, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Data, some sort of a data. For example, 30% of India's soils are degraded. That can also be a kind of a introduction. Background, again, an overall understanding or summarizing the issue. And finally, if you don't know anything, if you can't do anything, just rephrase what is written in the question itself. So let's see examples of these and then we'll proceed. This is a definition based introduction. This is Junaid Ahmed's copy, rank 3. And he talks about referendums are portrayed as popular governance in its purest form. However, it is also argued that they often subvert democracy rather than subvert it. So serve it. What is a referendum? Directly you take people's opinion on a matter, okay, on a matter or a policy. Directly people's opinion is taken on the basis of, let's say, an election, all right. So he says the referendum is a tool of direct democracy wherein people directly vote on an issue or policy of the country. It's very simple. Simply he has just mentioned what is referendum, okay. So rather than talking about and then examine it in the light of recent developments. So he says the recent referendum held in Britain for the question on Brexit, okay, then he says that it may not necessarily be beneficial for the country. So one, he is talking, pehle he gives a definition of referendum hota kya hai, and then he also talks about a recent event because the question also demands it. Here only the question is saying, examine in light of recent developments across the globe. So when he talks about Brexit right at the start of the answer, the examiner is convinced he knows what it is being talked about, why it is being talked about. That means he is an aware candidate. All right. Report based introduction. All right. This is Akshat Jain, the rank holders and their names are written. So this question talks about desertification. It says, as per the State of Our Environment Report 2017, 8 states of India find large areas of their land suffering from desertification. So there are 8 states of India which are suffering from desertification. Again, Ayan, for example, he mentions the Earth Niti report of Niti Aayog has pointed out issues related to fiscal stability of states in India. Again, name of the report and what it mentions. All right. Recent event based introductions. So for example, examine the link between recent locust attack and climate change. तो क्वेश्चन itself is mentioning recent locust attack and climate change. तो मतलब recent ही है. So you have to talk about the recent locust attack that took place. So he starts his answer with recently Western India, Rajasthan, Gujarat, MP, Punjab experienced large scale locust attack and which led to loss of crops by farmers. Then he shows the origin of the locust attack took place somewhere in Africa, and this is how they traversed the Arabian Peninsula to reach India. Alright, so this is again an introduction. If the question itself is asking you, let's say wo Brexit wala tha recent development, if the question is talking about a recent event, you have to tell the examiner that I know which recent event you are mentioning. Next is, if you don't understand anything at all, whatsoever, अगर कुछ भी नहीं समझ आ रहा है कि क्या करना है, so look at this. Even though the Representation of People's Act has been amended from time to time, the issues pertaining to criminalization and influence of money power remain unresolved. That means there is criminalization and money power involved, still involved in elections, even though we have Representation of People's Act or other laws to curb it. Alright, so what does he say? He says Representation of People's Act was formulated to ensure free and fair elections in the country. He talks about the act itself. And despite a long list of provisions, criminalization and influence of money power is a recurring problem in the Indian election. So merely what is written in the question has been reiterated in the introduction. When you don't understand anything, let's say you're not able to recollect, or if you're not able to recollect any data related to criminalization, you can always summarize what is there in the question itself. Rephrase it to write the introduction. Okay? But this, again, mind you, is only 10% of the answer. You can talk about introduction, you can write even हर basic से basic introduction is acceptable. कोई examiner आपके introduction की वजह से marks नहीं काटेगा. But the main purpose of the introduction is to let the examiner know that you have understood the demand of the question and you are very much in line with the topic of the question. ऐसा नहीं कि आपको पूछा harvest festivals के बारे में जा रहे हो और आप green revolution पे जा रहे हो. वो नहीं करना है. Blunder नहीं होना चाहिए. बाकी more or less almost everything is accepted because every examiner is interested in reading what you have written in the main body of the answer. And that is what constitutes about 90% of the main meat of the answer. Alright. So now let's talk about a little bit about the body of the answer. We have already discussed certain structuring points as to how different kinds of structuring can be done. You yourself have written answers so you can understand ki how your bent of mind has changed after reading it in a certain way and then writing it in a different manner. Alright. Of course, there are some basics. You have to include the relevant keywords. Now tell me, UPSC is a subjective examination, right? Mains is a subjective examination, which means that there has to be some level of fairness. There has to be some common yardstick against which all candidates are examined. एक कॉमन यार्डस्टिक होगी ना. ऐसा तो नहीं है कि जिसके एग्जामिनर में जो मन आया वो उसने मार्क्स दे दिए. UPSC must be giving some guidelines to the examiner also who is checking your copies, and those must be common guidelines. In my opinion, and I am again saying this is in my opinion, there is some sort of a model answer or something that is given to the examiners to make sure that the yardstick is common against which the answers are marked. Alright, there is something which is given to the examiners कि अगर ये points उसमें mentioned है, so you can give marks. Because it cannot be completely at the will of the person, right? कि आपको ठीक लग रहा है आंसर तो आप दे दो जितने मार्क्स देने. It can't be that. There has to be something which makes the examination fair. And in that context, I believe the closer is your answer to the model answer, or the more relevant points, keywords you have written which are there in the answer key of the UPSC, the more marks you are likely to get. Okay? So which means that whenever you are studying any topic, you have to look for the main keywords in that topic and only memorize those keywords positively. बाकी sentences तो तुम खुद भी लिख लोगे. You can write those sentences. That's not a big deal. The keywords is something that is what the examiner will look for. Clear? Cover multiple dimensions. We saw in this question related to harvest festivals, right? Unique and multiple dimensions. We saw it in Ishita's answer copy as well. So she was talking about regional music. So she covered all sorts of regions. She covers all sorts of music, correct? And substantiate with examples. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of this. 1 point, 1 example, 1 point, 1 example. This is the only format that you have to follow. So keep your eyes, ears open when you're reading the newspapers. If you come across any example, just jot it down that what I'm reading right now is related to this part of the syllabus. And this is what I will note down. This is how toppers become toppers. They all have one notebook जिसमें वो ये material पूरा इकट्ठा करके रखते हैं. Okay, so for example, if there is a question on financial inclusion, they will have key points related to financial inclusion ready, that these are the government schemes that I will talk about. Let's say I will talk about JAM Trinity, I will talk about the Jan Dhan Yojana, I will talk about these things. So this is ready, and they will have 1 or 2 data points related to it ready, correct? This exactly will differentiate the answer of a topper from a regular person. So that hard work of collecting that extra material has to be done by you, which we sometimes call as fodder material, like extra fodder material hai. But that is very, very important in mains. Okay, and finally, maintain a coherent flow. This is extremely important. You remember when we saw that answer copy of the first candidate related to regional music? The points were there, but it was not coherent. पहले कहीं कर्नाटक आ रहा है, फिर बीच में कहीं दोबारा से कर्नाटक आ गया म्यूजिक. There was not a flow. But when you read Ishita's answer, it was so easy to read, right? The easier you make the life of the examiner, the more marks he will give you. जितना उसके लिए tough करोगे पढ़ना, that what has to be read, how it has to be read, the examiner will not reward you. The examiner will reward you if there is an ease of reading answers. And the best case for this, best example that we have seen for this are the answer copies of Tina Darby. You all know Tina Darby. She has excellent answers. The flow in her answers is just, it is like reading a magazine. आपने बस पढ़ते गए and you can make sense of everything, and the coherence is excellent. You at no point you stop to think ki, acha, what is she trying to say here? No, nothing. It's like just reading a novel. Simply you read and the examiner says, yes, I can make sense of things, and there is clarity. So these are the important elements when you write the main body of the answer. Of course, it depends from subject to subject. Things also vary. ठीक है, हर subject की एक अलग demand है, हर subject की एक अलग requirement है, and we'll understand that also. Okay. Let's see one good answer. This is rank 1 2023 Aditya Srivastav answer copy. Of course, this is the Abhyas test. This is not the actual exam. All right. So he must have attempted this paper 1 month before the actual examination. So we can assume this will be as close to the real answers that he would have written. All right. The question says, with a significant proportion of India's population expected to live in urban areas by 2030, the welfare of urban poor needs to take a standard stage in public policy. Now, can you look very carefully how Aditya has underlined the keywords here? He has number 1 underlined, India's population is expected to live in urban areas, considerable population by 2030. ये तो आपको question ही बता रहा है. Then he says welfare of the urban poor. He's double underlined it. That means he's only, question is talking about urban poor and not all urban population in general. Number 2, again he uses the word, it has to take center stage in the public policy. So urban poor has to be at the core of the public policy discourse related to urbanization in India. Okay, now let's read his answers. Recent launch of Urban Employment Guarantee Scheme by Rajasthan brought urban poor welfare to the fore. So the first thought that he has is, he knows about a scheme related to urban poor. So wo link is between the question and answer is established, that the question is focusing on urban poor and he is talking about urban poor. And he gives an example of this Rajasthan scheme. Clear? Now, why is there a need? All right? Because the question says welfare of urban poor needs to take a center stage. So he says there is a need for welfare of urban poor as a central theme. Same point rephrased. Clear? What is this? अब ये बताओ. There is high disparity. मतलब urban poor को central theme में क्यों लेकर आना है? Number one, there is high disparity in the standard of life. So urban poor is living in slums. There is ghettoization, right? So there is high disparity. Again, data that at the rate of 17% have all diseases. Second, urban poor has lack of employment. He may not have data with it, but very smartly he has put Article 43 of the Constitution, which talks about providing work. All right, this is a DPSP, right? So, agar data bhi nahi hai, he has used Article 43, but substantiated it with something. 1 point, 1 data point or example. 1 point, 1 data point or example. Again, lack of adequate water and sanitation. So again he has some data. World Bank data is there is loss of 6,500 rupees per person per year. Ab ye wala he must have read somewhere and noted it down that I will use this. And this will get used. Urbanization एक ऐसा topic है जो कहीं ना कहीं if not anywhere तो तुम्हारे essay में भी use हो सकता है. So this is what you have to do during your course of your preparation. You have to gather the material which can be used at any place. This can be used in ethics also. Correct? So collect this kind of material. Then increasing crimes in urban areas. Then pollution of water bodies due to open defecation. He talks about example Adayar river Chennai. ये तो कोई भी river का नाम लिख दो, यमुना in Delhi लिख दो. Correct? कोई भी लिख सकते हैं. So point being, again congestion. We had talked about congestion. We had talked about employment disparity, right? We had talked about problems of urbanization, but this question talks about urban poor specifically. So we had to deal with that. अब poor है तो मतलब पैसा नहीं है तो employment नहीं है. They're all linked. So he talks about employment as well. Understood? So that means all the points are unique. Yes, they are not linked. Crime is different, sanitation is different, employment is different, disparity is different, living standards. Okay, and congestion again is different. This is the method that we have to follow in answer writing. Unique point, example, something to substantiate that. All right. Now, अच्छा एक चीज तो ये हो गई. He says, अब ये क्या आंसर खत्म हो गया क्या यहाँ पे? He has addressed the question. This is a 15 marker and he has said that why do we need welfare for urban poor, why it should be a central theme. What are the problems that they are facing? तो वहीं पे खत्म हो गया क्या? No. This is one key takeaway which Aditya had from his multiple attempts. This was his third attempt. I think in the first attempt he could not clear prelims, if I'm not wrong, and second attempt he gave the mains, and third, this was his third attempt. The difference he realized in his successive attempts was that even if the question is not asking you for it explicitly, give additional information. Write more points. So for example, अगर आपने बता दिया कि क्यों ज़रूरत है अर्बन पुअर को, तो आप ये भी बताओ कि अर्बन पुअर नीड सेंट्रल स्टेज वाया, how we are going to provide that central stage to them. Okay, again, if you look at it, points are just a simple mirror reflection of the problems. Public policy based on good right principles to provide equity, disparity, equity, correct? Then employment guarantee, lack of employment, employment guarantee scheme, correct? Just mirror images. Then social security, all right, crime से related है या again money से related है, तो social security as अटल pension योजना. Then sanitation and water पूरा, that is provision of urban amenities in rural areas, पूरा model for rural and urban integrated development. ठीक है? And then he also talks about to prevent migration and reduce congestion. So वही points का mirror image है. And if you look at it, the specifics are still missing. ऐसा नहीं कि बहुत specific detail दी है या बहुत specific schemes के नाम लिखे हैं. Simple, जो बहुत ही commonly known है वो है. And then He doesn't end it here also. Then again he goes on to say, however, so far the efforts failed due to, but abhi tak kyun nahi hua hai? So he's just addressing one full 15 marker like it's an essay and covering all the dimensions: causes, impact, solution. Alright, then he says, because silos working of programs, each ministry is working in silos, each department is working in silos. There should be an integration among departments. Alright, then there is corruption in welfare scheme. Corruption to tum kahin bhi dal do. This is a point which will be universally accepted. Lack of documentation, invisible or ghost beneficiaries, है ना? Either they are not there or जबरदस्ती बना के people are siphoning funds. Okay, caught in exploitative informal sector. Again, that is a problem of urban poor. Lack of employment, and even if there is employment, it is in the informal sector. And then finally he gives the solution. So क्या है? पहले he told कि क्यों हमें चाहिए. Then he says हम कैसे, मतलब what are the main points that have to be addressed, and अभी तक क्यों नहीं हो पाया है, और finally आगे हम और क्या कर सकते हैं. So the answer is so holistic, so holistic. Now think of yourself as an examiner. Even if तुम्हें independent point impress नहीं करेगा, but the whole answer will impress you. You will feel that yes, he has covered everything. And now compare your writing speed with his writing speed. He would have written this answer in about, let's say, 8 minutes or 9 minutes max. Now this is the level of smartness that we have to achieve. And when I say smartness, I not only mean recollection of facts and speed, but also structuring of your answer there and then at a quick pace. And that is why answer writing practice makes all of the difference. Because once you start doing it at a regular basis, na, your mind automatically starts working like that. Question देखते ही समझ आ जाता है, इसको मैं ऐसे ऐसे break कर सकता हूँ. And frankly, if you look at it, all the questions in UPSC is related to either an issue, okay, or some sort of a problem that is going on, or some sort of a scheme, uska analysis hoga. So there will always be causes, impact, solution, way ahead, tumhe kya karna hai. Because at the end of the day, the exam expects you to become future administrators of the country, which means you have to give out solutions to existing problems. You can only give a solution to a problem which you understand. So you have to show it to the examiner. I understand the extent of the problem with so and so data. This is the solution that has been going on, and this is what more we can do. Every answer has more or less this structure. Cloudburst का भी मैं अगर बोलूँ, तो the question will ask that why is there an increase in the incidence of cloudburst? Then we can talk about climate change, okay? And then we can talk about what more we can do. Clear? But this exam is not an exam of ratification, unlike what people usually think. People think that this is an exam of just getting notes, mugging it up, and then blurting it out in the exam. No. It's an exam of your understanding. If you understand an issue, then you can write no matter what. If I give you a question on urban flooding, you don't have to have any solid concrete data to write a decent answer. Aisa answer you can also write on urban flooding. Because you know I have to talk about these 5-6 independent dimensions related to urban flooding. And the more you practice answer writing, it will be easier for your mind to start structuring. Automatically, it becomes so automated कि आप देखते ही बोल देते हो अच्छा ये है इसमें ये point आना है. And you know what happens? You start plugging the loopholes in your preparation accordingly. So for example, you wrote a test series in which you had 3-4 questions जिसमें आपको बहुत अच्छे से आंसर नहीं आता था, but आपने कुछ करके लिख दिया. Your mind will automatically connect the dots. For example, let's say there's a question on women and children welfare schemes. So automatically you will think यार अच्छा मुझे इसमें बहुत अच्छे से schemes नहीं आती हैं. Let me go back to my notes, or let me go back to the website of Ministry of Women and Child Development. What are the 3-4 main schemes that are running for this category of people? Let me jot that down. और उसकी कितनी है?
Preparing for UPSC Prelims? Struggling with accuracy, time management and unpredictable question patterns? Introducing the All India General Studies Prelims Test Series with Sandhan, designed to sharpen your exam strategy. Experience real exam-like conditions and gain in-depth performance insights. What makes this test series unique? Personalized test creation, choose topics, difficulty levels and timing. 25,000 plus high-quality questions cover static and dynamic areas effectively. AI-powered performance analytics identify strengths and improve weak areas. One-on-one mentoring, get expert guidance for smarter preparation. All India ranking and comparative analysis, know where you stand nationally. Enhance your preparation, gain confidence, master UPSC Prelims 2025 with Sandhan. Enroll today and take Smartest step towards your UPSC success. Test series start on 9th March.
Does your current affairs preparation feel unorganized and scattered? Vision IA's digital current affairs platform brings everything you need under one roof. Whether you are starting with the basics or looking to refine your preparation, Vision IA's digital current affairs premium features include Vision Intelligence. Get AI-driven responses to your current affairs questions, instant, syllabus-aligned and precise. Daily answer writing. Enhance your mains preparation with structured answer writing and expert feedback. Quick notes and highlights. Streamline your note-taking and create personalized revision materials for easy reference. And free features include daily news summaries. Stay updated with curated insights from trusted sources like The Hindu and Indian Express, saving you valuable time. Downloadable PDFs. Organize study materials efficiently for seamless revision. Daily quizzes. Sharpen your knowledge with MCQs that track your progress and reinforce learning. Student dashboard. Keep your preparation on track with a performance monitoring system. Visit our website to explore the features and get started today.
Struggling to improve your answer writing for UPSC Mains? Unsure how to structure your responses effectively? At Vision IAS, we understand that mastering answer writing is key to success in UPSC Mains. Introducing the All India GS Mains, Essay and Ethics Test Series. Get the right practice, expert feedback and real exam simulation to refine your approach. UPSC standard mock tests cover analytical, philosophical and ethical themes. Personalized feedback, improve clarity, structure and presentation. Expert mentorship, decode questions and enhance your strategy. All India ranking, benchmark your performance against top aspirants. Flexible scheduling, plan your tests at your convenience. With structured practice and detailed evaluation, take your UPSC Mains preparation to the next level. Test series details. For UPSC Mains 2025 starts on 9th March. For UPSC Mains 2026 starts on 9th March. Join now and refine your preparation with Vision IAS. Available online and offline.
Achievement है वो क्या उसका aim है बस. And I've just taken those 3-4 schemes names and I will remember it again. This whole process of writing, revising, plugging the loops hole, that is all that is required for this exam. But likhna zaruri hai. Just mere coming and sitting in the class and listening to the lecturer will not help you clear this exam. Because only you know what you already know. Okay? Then finally he says, use of technology, way ahead for public policy. Then he talks about use of socio-economic caste censors. Then he talks about local better skilling of urban poor, especially placement in local MSMEs, that was given by KV Kamath. Okay, slum redevelopment, portal-based connection of employer-employee, that is Asim portal, that is also an example. So whatever information he knew related to urban poor or urban employment, he has mentioned that. And finally, he says this would help make urban areas an opportunity and as envisaged by our Prime Minister, achieve Sustainable Development Goal 11. एक which is inclusive growth for all. तो ये कुछ जो SDGs होते हैं, this can be fit anywhere. These are so generic. Inclusive growth for all आपको कहीं भी डाल सकते हो, whether it is urban poor related, whether it is women and children related. This is a overarching goal, right? So you can fit in anywhere. Water and sanitation related है, so you can put those goals. No poverty related है, so you can put the SDG goal, right? Everything can be put. So the preparation has to be so smart that points which fit in at most of the places have to be picked up. Clear? Okay. Yeah. So this one or this one? This, no. So way forward mein he is giving you what additional can be done. Yeah, more, yes, what additional can be done, and this is that what are the target areas that have to be targeted. So for example, he talks about social security, employment guarantee, alright, but this is about more specifics. This is about more specifics that what can be done. Even if you don't write it in two different points, it's okay. All this is beyond the demand of the actual question. But since this is a 15 marker, obviously you have to give something additional. Alright, and now imagine if this is a 15 marker, how much marks would you give to him for this? Forget about the fact that this is rank 1's copy. How much would you give? 8? Honestly? 9? Or 6 to 7? 6 to 7, okay. चलो 7.5 भी दे दिया, 50%. और क्या चाहिए? But challenge क्या है? The challenge is not in writing one good answer. The challenge is in writing 20 such answers. Imagine Aditya की copy would be like filled with pages. सब भरा हुआ होगा. And everywhere the examiner is checking every copy. The moment he's flipping the pages, he would say, अच्छा ये भी ठीक है, ये भी ठीक है, चल ले number ले. You know, that is how the human mind works. कहाँ number काटेगा वो? ठीक है? You get my point. Number तब करते हैं जब A आप आंसर लिखते ही नहीं, आप वही बात गोल गोल करके लिखते रहते हो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल जो हमने देखा, यूनिटी, ब्रदरहुड, कॉमन, हाँ ठीक है, कुछ नया बोलो, एग्जामिनर ये सोचेगा. या फिर आप हार्वेस्ट फेस्टिवल्स पे ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन लिख दो, वो बोलेगा कहाँ. ठीक है, दिस इज द challenge and this is what we have to overcome in our preparation. Okay, so nothing of great importance can be built and expected to last without having a strong foundation to build on. Until unless you don't have a strong foundation, until unless the content, the syllabus that you are preparing, वो जब तक solid नहीं है, unique 4, 5, 6 points नहीं है for every topic, you are not prepared for this exam. Okay, listening to class lectures, understanding the issue is totally one thing altogether. Writing answers under examination pressure with unique points and examples and data is a totally different ball game. And that's the loophole we have to plug. So how do we do that? How do we understand that what is important and what is not important? And this is the biggest gap in everybody's preparation these days, that there is too much information, too much data, too much material. क्या पढ़ें, क्या ना पढ़ें, कैसे पढ़ें, नोट्स बनाएं, नहीं पढ़ाएं. नोट्स बनाने में ही पूरा दिन निकल जाता है, एक चैप्टर का पूरा दिन निकल गया. आज सुबह से लेके शाम तक बैठे हैं, अखबार पढ़े ही जा रहे हैं, लेकिन ख़त्म ही नहीं हो रही है. अच्छा, हम नोट्स बनाए, थक गए, छोड़ो यार, अब कौन दोबारा उठाए. एंड दिस इज़ अ प्रॉब्लम दैट एवरीबडी हैज़ फेस्ड. सो द लेस effort you make, the better it is. Less is more in UPSC. Less is more in UPSC. I'm repeating it. Look at this. This is a small write-up on natural farming. This is from one of the government websites. Okay. Now, मुझे इस topic का natural farming के notes बनाने हैं. I have to jot down the notes. Okay. Quickly read this and tell me what should I write in my notes. Okay, you tell me which point to underline and we'll assume that goes in the notes. कहाँ लिखा है? Indian tradition. अच्छा, ये agroecology based. Okay. Biomass recycling. Cow dung urine formulations. ओके और चलो ये भी छोड़ दो, इतना ही ठीक है। ये सारा लिखेंगे हम, क्या याद रहेगा इसमें से, क्या क्या याद करोगे इसमें से? तुमने कितने पॉइंट्स निकाले? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, एक पैराग्राफ में से 9 पॉइंट्स। तो तुम सिलेबस, हाउ विल यू फिनिश द सिलेबस? तुम्हें नेचुरल फार्मिंग याद करने में 1 हफ्ता लग जाएगा। You don't have to make this mistake. Not everything has to be memorized. Just take the essence of it. Okay? So for example, अगर मुझे इस पैराग्राफ में से पिक करना है, if I have to pick, let me take a contrast. If I have to say, I will just say natural farming is a chemical free farming system. ठीक है, एग्रो इकोलॉजी बेस्ड पता ही चल रहा है नहीं है, एक्सक्लूजन ऑफ ऑल सिंथेटिक केमिकल इनपुट्स इज अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस ओनली। ठीक है, रूटेड इन इंडियन ट्रेडिशन की क्या जरूरत है? जरूरत नहीं है, ये तुम एग्जाम में खुद भी लिख सकते हो। इंडियन ट्रेडिशन क्या, फॉर सेंचुरीज सिंथेटिक केमिकल्स तो अभी रिसेंटली आए हैं। Since millennia, humanity has been cultivating in the form of natural or organic farming only, although there's a difference between the two, but loosely saying, right? So, it's not so relevant. Then, what else I will write? On farm, cow, dung, तुम्हें ये याद रहेगा, तुम अभी बोल के दिखाना ये, बोलो। Less is more, less is more. कम उठाओ और उसको अच्छे से याद करो। सो नेचुरल फार्मिंग इज अ केमिकल फ्री फार्मिंग सिस्टम। इट इंटीग्रेट्स क्रॉप्स, ट्रीज एंड लाइव स्टॉक्स, ओके, विच इंक्लूड्स लेट्स से बायोमास रिसाइकलिंग, यू कैन टॉक अबाउट इट। खत्म, अब यहाँ पे डेफिनेशन खत्म हो गई। सो नेचुरल फार्मिंग इज केमिकल फ्री फार्मिंग सिस्टम, इंटीग्रेट्स दिस एंड टॉक्स अबाउट ऑन फार्म बायोमास रिसाइकलिंग। ये नहीं भी लिखोगे तो भी चलेगा, तुम बस इतना भी लिख लो तो बहुत है। नेचुरल फार्मिंग is a chemical free farming system which integrates crops, trees, livestock. अब याद हो गया? अब नहीं भूलेगा, क्योंकि less is more. इतना सब लर्न करने की कोशिश करेंगे तो कुछ भी याद नहीं रहेगा। And then we will say what are the advantages, or you can say significance. Then you will write dependency on, will reduce dependency on purchased inputs. It is more cost effective. It increases employment and caters to rural developments. 4 unique points हो गए, isn't it? बस, और हमें आंसर्स में भी ऐसे ही लिखना होता है। नेचुरल फार्मिंग ये है, इट इज सिग्निफिकेंस लाइज इन 1 2 3 4 एग्जाम्पल एग्जाम्पल एग्जाम्पल, या डेटा व्हाटएवर, ये करना है। ठीक है, मिनिमाइज द नंबर ऑफ वर्ड्स यू आर ट्राइंग टू मेमोराइज, कुछ याद नहीं रहेगा। जितना सिंपल रखोगे अपनी प्रिपरेशन को, इट विल बी ईजियर फॉर यू। ठीक है, आंसर्स देखे हैं ना टॉपर्स के, लैंग्वेज इज सिंपल, पॉइंट्स आर सिंपल। जितना इजी रखोगे इट विल बी ईजियर, क्योंकि सिलेबस इतना वास्ट है। टू कंप्लीट द सिलेबस इटसेल्फ इज अ चैलेंज, टू फिनिश द आंसर शीट itself is a challenge, completing the paper itself is a challenge. I'll show you the date sheet of mains. Date sheet of mains देखिए how it works. There are, how many papers are there? General studies में 4, right? One second. ये है ना 4 general studies papers. Okay, this is the date sheet. This is last year's date sheet, 2023's date sheet. Okay, first day Friday you are writing the essay paper from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. which means you are leaving your house at least at 6 p.m. even if 6 a.m. even if your center is very close. ठीक है, because usually 1 घंटा तो minimum travel मान के ही चलो, ठीक है, which means you will reach there by 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock थोड़ा जो भी, ठीक है. Here you reach home back, there is no paper on the first day, there is only one paper. 12 बजे निकलते निकलते 1 बज जाएगा, घर आते आते 3 बज जाएंगे. Okay, again next morning you have to wake up at 6, right, because you have to leave maximum by 6:37 to reach your center at 8. This is also considering even if your center is closest. By 8 you reach the center, at 9 o'clock you write one paper from 9 to 12, right? You write one paper, that is GS paper 1, जिसमें हमारा पूरा history, geography, society, world history, everything is there. तो वो जितना भी हमने last 1.5 years में लिखा है वो सारा recollect करके एक paper लिखना है 9 to 12. The moment this paper gets over, by the time you come out, it's already 12:15, 12:20. निकलते निकलते. Okay, you barely have your lunch. It's 1:30. It's time to go back inside. 2 o'clock again your paper starts. General Studies paper 2, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. which means you are recollecting the entire polity, governance, public administration and international relations that you have read in the last 1.5 years minimum. Okay, 2 to 5 वो लिखा है. Then again 5 o'clock your paper gets over, 5:30 you're out, you reach your home by 7:30, you barely have your dinner, it's time to sleep because again next morning you have to wake up at 6. Then you write General Studies paper 3, which again 9 to 12, which includes economics, agriculture, science and technology, internal security, disaster management. Then again, same day, you are writing one full paper on ethics. 3 days, in a span of 3 days, you are writing continuously for 15 hours. Okay, you are writing for 15 hours. That is a lot of writing, which requires a lot of stamina, which means that points वहाँ पे इतने pressure में you're only able to recollect those points जो actually long term memory में है. Short term memory does not work in this examination. So the lesser material you collect to remember, the better it is. अब बताओ इस date sheet पे देख के if you had to attempt the paper, right, let's say General Studies paper 3, और इसमें आता है नेचुरल फार्मिंग, तुमने वो जो 9 पॉइंट्स मुझसे अंडरलाइन करवाए तुम्हें याद रहेगा? ऑन फार्म, बायोमास रिसाइकलिंग, विल काउ डंग यूरिन फॉर्मुलेशंस, कुछ नहीं याद रहने वाला. बट लेस इज मोर इन दिस एग्जामिनेशन, प्लीज रिमेंबर. ओके, ऑफ कोर्स लेस इज लेस एनीवे, द मोर इज बेटर, बट you also have a limited capacity. So try to pick up the important points. So इसी context में understand if question is on natural farming, it is a chemical free farming system which integrates crops, trees and livestock. It has the following advantages. So and so example, then you can talk about other natural farming systems and terms. ठीक है, वो जो आती हैं जीवात्मा एंड ऑल दैट, वो सब तुम जीव मित्रा एंड ऑल सब बीज मित्रा वो सब लिख सकते हो, बट वो बात का है. अभी तो जो उसमें लिखा है आई एम ओनली टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट. ठीक है, बट यू कैन टॉक अबाउट there are so many examples, all right, but point being your answer has to look more enriched, and it can only happen if you have unique points and if you have written in a structured manner, and that can only happen if your notes are easier to revise, they are less heavy in content, more heavy in dimensions. Cover multiple dimensions and write less of content. Write examples, write case studies, थोड़ा data लिख लो, write related schemes. ठीक है, that is how preparation for this examination has to be done. Unlike कि एक book लेके बैठे हैं और उसी में ही खो गए हैं. All right, so make your preparation easier. Don't make it tougher for yourself. It has to be made easier. Okay, and conclusions. We've understood how the body has to be of the answer. Lots of points, structured points. Even if the question is not demanding it, try to give thoda sa 2-3 points में solutions. It always helps. It always helps. Okay. And finally, conclusions. We have already read some conclusions. What kind of conclusions did we see? We saw there were questions which talked about future way out. You know, way forward क्या होना चाहिए? What can we do further? There were conclusions which talked about, हमने इशिता का जो देखा था, she gave an example of the recent Karnataka museum. So something that has happened recently. Plus again she also gave a way forward, right? That cultural integration should be taught in school curriculum, NSS and all that. So what else? So thoda sa you can either summarize the conclusion, that means you just summarize the whole thing, or you can, if their question is talking about taking a view on something, I'll show you an example of that also. There is a very nice answer written by Srishti Dabas on a question which simply asks in yes or no. Okay, and then you can take a balanced opinion on that. And finally, there is a reformist or a futuristic conclusion कि ये हम कर सकते हैं. Okay, example देखो, summarize conclusion का. So this is about talking about contributions of Ram Manohar Lohia during the Indian freedom struggle. So Ram Manohar Lohia was an important voice in the social justice and equality throughout his life. Simple. यहाँ पे another example is the freedom struggle thus was notable to ensure civil liberties, which is a basic constituent of human development and culminated in the Indian Constitution. Generic, simple conclusion. All right, balanced conclusion. So if we have to talk about something, the need of the hour is to retain a welfarist approach. For example, A-Sen's, that is Amartya Sen's capability development, yet private sector support to achieve, again, Sustainable Development Goal and Alma-Ata Declaration. Okay. Again, Quit India movement, unlike its predecessors, was militant, that is, it was non-violent, not violent in its spirit. Some historians refer to it as the August Revolution. It sent signals about clear intentions of Indians that colonial rule was near its end. Okay, you can write your own simple conclusions like that. It does not have to be very specific, but कुछ पॉइंट्स हैं जैसे कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के कुछ आर्टिकल्स, फंडामेंटल राइट्स, डीपीएसपीज या प्रियम्बल, वो आप कहीं ना कहीं हमेशा कंक्लूजन में डाल सकते हो. दे ऑलवेज फिट इन समवेयर और द अदर. सिमिलर इज सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स. दिस इज ऑल्सो समथिंग दैट यू कैन ऑलवेज फिट इन. एंड इफ देर आर लेट्स से सम कन्वेंशंस रिलेटेड टू अ पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन, जैसे क्लाइमेट चेंज हो गया तो UNFCCC से हो गया या पेरिस अग्रीमेंट से हो गया, यू कैन डेफिनेटली टॉक अबाउट दैट. एंड रिफॉर्मिस्ट conclusion. That means if the question is talking about some specific problem, so for example this question is talking about manual scavengers, so manual scavengers topic mein you will obviously not take a balanced opinion about something. You will obviously have a reformist conclusion because you want to improve their lives. So you can say manual scavenging in reformed forms still persists and leads to death of thousands of sanitation workers each year. There is a need to ensure adequate safeguards for the same. Okay. Similarly, isme environmentalism reflects our culture and it was reflected in India's tall Panchamrit commitments at Glasgow to COP26. The need of the hour is that we need to expand Center for Science and Environment, although that is an NGO, unite sporadic movements, industry, academic, government collaboration. Again, dekha jaye to these points are very generic in nature. These are very generic in nature. All right. So you can always give something as a way forward that more that can be done. So this is regarding conclusion. In introduction and conclusion is something that you should not worry much about. If you have content, आपको पता है, तो you can always fit in. Of course, there are key things like DPSP and sustainable development goals that you can always fit in. बाकी कुछ ना कुछ तो you will always be able to write. Let's take a quick look at different subjects and what is a different strategy that is required for each subject. Of course, content is king. If you have content, better. But still, let's try and evaluate what is the trend of the questions in those subjects and how do we prepare that. All right. We'll first start with General Studies Paper 1. Okay. We'll start with General Studies Paper 1. Art and culture. Okay. Art and culture ke questions, it is good that if you are, let's say, revising paintings, then you revise the paintings, region wise paintings of India. Okay. So that, like we saw in Ishita's answer, if there is a question on paintings, you can at least draw a map and show the different paintings and from different regions of India. तो वो एक prepare करके रख लो with examples. ठीक है. And if you want to add on top of that, you can add the name of a few proponents. All right. So that is a very good thing to do. Significance in modern times. What is the significance in modern times? We'll see that question. And comparison with contemporaries. What is the comparison of then उस time का art with current art forms? I'll show you questions of that and maps and diagrams. If you can draw, so for example, हमने उस question में देखा था, it can be done. All right. If you look at this question. The main thing about art and culture is, देखो, या तो UPSC आपसे ये पूछेगा particular art form के बारे में. Either they are going to ask you, number 1, what is the diversity? For example, what are the different art forms? Paintings कितने तरीके की है, sculpture कितने तरीके का है, कहाँ कहाँ मिलता है, ठीक है? So where all they are there. Second, they will ask you, they can ask you how it can be used as a source of information. Source of information. So for example, if I look at the paintings of Tanjavur, okay, the temple of Tanjavur, what information do I get about the socio-economic life of that period, of the Cholas? All right, this type of question is one of the favorites of UPSC. All right. Second is linkages or resemblance with contemporary. For example, अगर Indus Valley civilization पे question है, how Indus Valley civilization or urban planning in Indus Valley civilization is similar to the modern day planning. How similar is that? So we can talk about the drainage system, we can talk about the rectangular grid pattern, right? But also there are some differences also that can also be discussed. So how basically our present is influenced by our past. एक है कि source of information की तरह, मतलब हमें उस time के socio economic conditions के बारे में क्या बताता है. Okay, इसका example देखो, ये है. This is a 2020 question. The rock cut architecture represents one of the most important sources of knowledge of early Indian art and history. ठीक है, दिस इज वन टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चन दैट इज फेवरेट. अब ये वाला कंटेम्प्रेरी से कैसे रिलेटेड है? दिस क्वेश्चन, व्हाट आर द मेन फीचर्स ऑफ वैदिक सोसाइटी एंड रिलीजन? डू यू थिंक सम ऑफ द फीचर्स आर स्टिल प्रिवेलिंग इन द इंडियन सोसाइटी? गिव मी सम एग्जाम्पल्स, सम फीचर्स दैट आर स्टिल प्रिवेलिंग. यस, और हवन, वेरी गुड. करेक्ट, बिल्कुल ठीक. हाँ, यस, ठीक है. सो बेसिकली मेनी ऑफ दोज थिंग्स आर स्टिल प्रेवलेंट. सो अगर आप किसी चीज के बारे में पढ़ रहे हो, सो इज इट रिलेटेड टू द कंटेम्प्रेरी art form or the current socio-economic way of life? That has to be studied. This is a recurring theme. अच्छा, यही source of information में ये example भी देखो. Persian literary sources of medieval India reflect the spirit of the age. That means they talk about that age उस time पे क्या उसके बारे में बताते थे. Again, similar. How will you explain that medieval Indian temple sculptures represent the social life of those days? देखा, that there is a repetition of themes. इसी type के questions is important. Then of course, safeguarding the Indian art and heritage, ये तो हमेशा पूछे ही सकते हैं कि the relevance of Indian art and heritage, okay? And look at this question also. Indian philosophy and tradition played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments. Again, link between Indian philosophy and the monuments. So socio-economic way of life, thinking, philosophy, how is it linked? उस टाइम की कैसे शो होती है उससे? That means आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कि अगर कोई स्कल्पचर है उस टाइम का कुछ दिखा रहा है तो वो क्या दिखाना चाहता है. ओके, सो दैट हैज टू बी अंडरस्टूड, व्हाट इट टेल्स यू अबाउट दैट टाइम पीरियड. सेकेंड, हाउ इट इज रिलेटेड टू द करंट टाइम पीरियड. ऑलराइट, दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट. दीज आर recurring themes in art and culture. Let's see one answer copy. Again, I think शायद I don't know ये किसका है, but this is one of the toppers only. Traditional theatre forms of India reflect the ideals and emotions of the society. Questions सब more or less यही हैं कि how art forms are related to the socio-economic, जैसे हमने वो harvest festival का किया था. Again, look, one map, different regions of India, different types of theatre forms. ये हर आर्ट फॉर्म के लिए कर लो, डांसेस के लिए कर लो, फोक डांसेस के लिए कर लो, क्लासिकल के लिए कर लो, राइट, म्यूजिक के लिए कर लो, इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के लिए कर लो, परकशन इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के लिए कर लो. यू विल बी सॉर्टेड, यू विल बी सॉर्टेड. क्वेश्चन आएगा, तुम झट झट यू विल राइट लाइक अ टाइपराइटर. ओके, सो I mean, typewriters are slow now, but still, all right. So it'll come to you very automatically. And that is exactly what toppers do. There's nothing exceptional about it. All right. Traditional theatre forms reflect in the ideals of the society. Same line, copy paste. Same line, reflect the ideals and emotions of the society. अब क्या है? They propagate social values. So for example, against sati and child marriage. Mythology dissemination, ठीक है? दंड नाच of Odisha, example दे दिया. Then of course there are Dash avatars and all, right? Based on Vishnu. Then art forms got expressed, that is Rasiya, all right? Then cultural unity, how it talks about that, Jatra in West Bengal, then individual role in community, and mirrors the cultural diversity. So talks about the local traditions, folklore, strengthening the diversity. Bas, this is the answer. Understood? But what is making this answer stand out? This is very similar to that question we saw on regional music. But what is making it stand out is the structure of the answer, and there are certain proper examples that are there. For every art form, you have to do this. Alright, ताकि कोई भी कैसा भी question आ जाए, you are able to link it. Okay. Next is ancient and medieval history. Alright, again, ancient and medieval history में most of the things will either revolve around dynasty. Okay, one dynasty का main वो जो पढ़ते हैं ना कि what was there, again some great reforms that they have done, either done by a particular dynasty or by a particular ruler, because there have been some very mighty rulers, right? So उन rulers ने क्या क्या reforms किए, right? Administrative, socio-economic, all kinds of reforms have to be taken into consideration. Personalities, ruler and their specific contribution, causes and impact of certain policies, all right, and geographical factors. This is one theme which usually people miss out in ancient and medieval, that how geography of a place determines its history. So let's look at some examples. So let's start with this. पहले personality based देखते हैं. Krishnadev Raya. He was an accomplished scholar himself, but was also a great patron of learning and literature. So if the rulers are patrons of any, any form of art, any form of sculpture making or any tradition, then that also becomes important. So उसके कुछ examples हमें पता होने चाहिए. All right. Next is, let's say again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhakti literature received a remarkable. There have been 2 questions directly on Bhakti movement in the last 10 years. All right. So Bhakti literature received a remarkable reorientation with an advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what was his achievement? What was his contribution? ठीक है, ये हो गया personality based. Geographical based, ये देखो. Explain the role of geographical factors towards the development of ancient India. That why ancient India evolved, right? How the dynasties changed over a period of time on account of the geography of India. That India is a separate subcontinent from rest of the Asia, separated by Himalayas. Correct? Similarly, third battle of Panipat was fought in 1761. Why were there so many empire-shaking battles fought at Panipat? Again, the geographical location of Panipat. So geographical location also becomes an important point. Of course, then you have rulers कि वो क्यों हुआ, कैसा हुआ. Again, Sultanate period है. तो Sultanate period में specifically क्या technological changes हुए. ठीक है? So history is more about socio-economic administrative changes, right? Okay. Next is how you can do it. Some templates, different kinds of introductions. There can be different introductions in art and culture, history also. But जैसे I'm just showing you some examples. So if there is a particular, जैसे सांची स्तूपा पे question है, you can start that it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Traditional again theatre forms है. So Ram Leela Muddiyattu were recently in the UNESCO untangible list. Okay. So you can again, if there is a question on a dynasty, you can start the introduction about the Pala dynasty was founded by Gopala in the 5th century AD. ऑलराइट, एंड दे रूल्ड दिस एरिया. सिंपल, बहुत बेसिक रखना है. तो हर डायनेस्टी का मे बी द मेन किंग रूलर और द फाउंडर स्लैश वेयर दे रूल्ड एंड इन विच टाइम पीरियड. This, if you're prepared, this can be a common introduction for all answers in ancient and medieval. Okay, so these can be some of the different kinds of introductions for this. ठीक है, next is modern Indian history and post independence. Again same thing, causes and impact. For example, what were the causes of 1857 revolt, okay, and what was its impact? Personalities and their contribution. Similar, include all groups and their leaders. So for example, let's say women, what was the role of women in the Gandhian freedom struggle? How many women were there? So Usha Mehta, Sucheta Kriplani, Aruna Asaf Ali, right? You can talk about them. So different kinds of sections of people. Yeah, foreigners, different foreigners who had a role to play in the Indian freedom movement. So different groups should be covered. Nature of movement, whether the new movement was violent or not. We saw that question on Quit India movement. Okay, and authors and their work. अगर याद रह जाए तो अच्छी बात है, that you can always remember. Okay, so let's take a look at the questions. So the revolt of 1857 was the culmination of the recurrent big and small local rebellions that had occurred in the preceding 100 years of British rule. So basically it's a causes pe. Why this took place? Because there was increasing frustration, okay, among the small, and they all clubbed together. Something like that. Then you can say, why did the armies of the British East India Company, mostly comprising of Indian soldiers, win consistently against the more numerous and better equipped armies of the Indian rulers? Causes and impact. Okay? Discuss the role of women in the freedom struggle, especially during the Gandhian phase. All right, and this is a post-independent India ke question. Write a critical note on the evolution and significance of the slogan Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. उसके बाद क्या ऐड हुआ था? Jai Vigyan, right? And discuss the contribution of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad to pre and post-independent India. Again, personality based. This will be the framework of questions in modern Indian history. Again, modern Indian history में your introductions can vary. So देखो, the body of the question will vary, but ideas for introductions can be taken, because body तो वही रहेगी जो तुम्हें आता है. अगर causes पता है 1857 के तो वही आएंगे more or less. ठीक है, introduction कैसे change हो सकती है? So for example, if the question talks about Bhagat Singh and his revolutionary ideology, you can say why he came up. Because after the decline of the non-cooperation movement post Chauri Chaura incident, revolutionary voices strengthened, and one of such voices was Bhagat Singh. तो आपने उसका background दे दिया कि वो क्यों आया. Correct? Similarly, generally also you can write the British were on a mission to loot colonies for their industrialization. The British Empire employed techniques like free trade, expansion of railways, to provide a misguided notion of welfare of India, and ruled for 200 years. Generic introduction, okay, that what is a general policy. And same Bhagat Singh wala question, this is Aditya's, that is rank 2's introduction, this is rank 1's introduction. Bhagat Singh was an important revolutionary born in 1898 and was hanged in 1931. ये गलत भी actually. ठीक है, no, please understand. Oh, he must be running out of time. क्या कर रहे हो? उसको याद आ रहा था मुझे 2 साल ये पता है बस. I'll just jot. That's what happens in the examination. You know, you're hard pressed for time and thoughts. So point being that all these introductions are acceptable. If we talk about Indian society, society is the most interesting of all subjects, because उसमें ऐसा कुछ नहीं है that you cannot talk about. Let's take a look at the questions. Do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in modern India? बताओ. Increasing divorce rates, or concept of open marriages or living relationships is on the rise, or why do you think marriages are losing their value? Or पहले क्या नहीं था जो अब हो रहा है? women empowerment, women are becoming more independent, educated. We'll not say much against them today. It's International Women's Day. Okay. Or, ठीक है? So whatever you can write, ठीक है? So do you think मैं पूछा है? You can simply answer in both. You have to give positive and negative both. So it's a more open-ended question, ठीक है? ये वाला question देखो. How is the growth of tier 2 cities related to the rise of a new middle class with an emphasis on the culture of consumption? ठीक है? If you look at it, this is a answer of it. So new middle class क्या है? New middle class means people who have recently entered the middle class post liberalization as a benefit of liberalization. So what is happening? Their consumption, saving and investment patterns are changing. The MNCs, they want to live a lifestyle which is similar to urban areas. Clear? They have easy access to financing facilities. The business have also reoriented themselves because of e-commerce. So many businesses are now able to provide in the tier 2 cities, which was not there earlier. Then you can talk about small, large and medium enterprises जो वहाँ पर है, investment in real estate. Political parties are also playing a role to this, okay? And then what are some of the steps taken by the government, okay? So this is a full answer that you can talk about tier 2 cities. But again question इतने open-ended होते हैं that you can write a lot more. But again the problem is if you are better prepared in advance, you will be able to think of more 6-7 unique points. See this question, explain why suicide among young women is increasing in Indian society. You can expect the reverse now. Suicides among young men is increasing in Indian society. That men are silent bearers of too much pressure, that is not discussed often, which is true. Alright, तो हर तरीके से हमको prepare करके रखना है कि अच्छा अगर अभी इतने we are listening and we are hearing about a lot of suicides and unfair marriage laws in India, right? So you can expect a question around that anytime. So prepare that accordingly कि अगर ये topic है, what are the 6-7 main points, independent unique points that I will write with examples. Clear? Okay. Geography, use of maps and diagrams is almost as necessary as it can get, okay? It's very important. Concepts of physical geography, कि ये क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है, what is landslide, why does it occur? इसमें you cannot apply your brain unless and you know it. You either know it or you don't know it, ठीक है? Tropical, how tropical cyclone forms, you either know it or you don't know it. So that has to be prepared. Socio-economic and cultural importance of a phenomena, that is also important. So for example, there is a question which talks about what are the forces that influence ocean currents, describe their role in the fishing industry of the world. Socio-economic importance, okay? Mention the significance of straits and isthmus in international trade. There was last year one more question on why is the winds, easterly winds in Bihar called Purvaiya, and what is its significance? ऐसे करके question था, monsoon winds. Purv is east, so because they come from the east, that is why the wind is called Purvaiya. और फिर उसको socio-economic influence में, just as we had interpreted that question, those points can be written. Clear? So socio-economic relevance of geographical phenomena is equally important. हर चीज़ में देखोगे more or less socio-economic उसमें आ ही जाता है, right? Introductions, some of the introductions in geography can range around volcanoes are formed due to magma plumes. So simple definition, La Nina is a phase of hydro-atmospheric conditions which intensifies normal conditions of these regions. अगर coastline पे है, 75% of coastline is prone to cyclones with 10% of the cyclones concentrated in India. You can talk about this, or again number based, pharmaceutical industry accounts for $45 billion annually. So you can either define the phenomena or you can give some data about it, that's also acceptable. Okay, introductions in geography. Polity and governance, these things are very important. अगर आपके polity के answer में related provisions of the constitution नहीं है, important laws या statutes are not mentioned, your answer is incomplete. Nobody will give you marks. If you have to score marks, you have to include the relevant articles of the constitution. Connect with fundamental rights, DPSPs and fundamental duties as much as possible. If there is a question on environment, you can again link it with DPSP, you can link it with fundamental duties, you can even link it with fundamental rights under Article 21. Alright, so this linkage has to be done, should be done. Okay, next is important Supreme Court judgments related to that. So whichever topic you are preparing, so for example, we are talking about women's safety at workplace, so Vishakha guidelines, so mention that case. Alright, and international law से अगर हम उसको relate कर सकते हैं, for example, if there is something which pertains to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that also should be done. Okay, let's see some examples. Again, this is rank 12, Aniket's copy. The question says the collegium system has become a victim of its own success with concentration of power in the hands of a few. Okay, so comment. All right. So he says Article 50. So he doesn't start with collegium system. He starts with the separation of powers. He says Article 50 under DPSP ensures the separation of judiciary from executive in the constitutional setup. Emergence of the collegium system, he talks about the first judge's case, second judge's case, and so on and so forth. Then he talks about the challenges with the collegium system. Ab dekho, question is just talking about the collegium system, but he talks about separation of powers, he gives how it evolves, and then he talks about the challenges. So all the toppers are giving the whole context, they are writing more. Okay? सिर्फ बेस उसको address करने से you will not get marks. If you need that one mark extra, you have to set the background. Challenges with collegium system, there is an uncle judge syndrome. That means if I know somebody, I will appoint him as a judge. Okay, lack of transparency and accountability prevents participation of other organs like legislature and outside experts, against separation of powers. Okay, it propagates, does not propagate or lacks diversity, and therefore the stability of the collegium system itself has enabled its antithesis. So again, points ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ बहुत different है या बहुत unique है. Lack of transparency, uncle judge syndrome, then he talks about separation of powers, it lacks diversity. He is mentioning all the points which you already know. कि अगर collegium system में if the judges themselves appoint themselves, then what is the challenge with that? But the answer has been set up in such a tone that he's given a background to it, he has mentioned the article. So the examiner is bound to understand कि ठीक है इसको पता है, he's relating it to the relevant article of the constitution also. That little preparation has to be done. Clear? Chalo, we'll move to international relations. International relations, again, we'll just, if you see the syllabus, the questions relate to, you can talk about India's international policies with respect to, let's say, its neighborhood, what kind of policies we have, look east policy or act east policy, then you have neighborhood first policy, how the policy has evolved over a period of time, India's foreign relations, that can be talked about. You can draw maps. So for example, if we are talking about India-China relationship, you can talk about the chicken's neck corridor. Okay, that puts things into perspective. And you can also add the views of diplomats or heads of state that are given somewhere. News में कभी आता है कि उन्होंने ये mention किया था. That can also be mentioned because that adds value to your answer, showing that you are reading the newspapers and you are generally aware. So that also helps. Okay, if we see this question, so this is about line of actual control. This is rank 6, Srishti Dabas. Okay, so this let's just understand broadly. Line of actual control से related question है. So she talks about India and China. She talks about the evolution of border disputes of India and China. ठीक है, और उसमें तुम देखो अगर if you look at it very carefully, सिर्फ एक 1962 की वॉर है, उसके बाद सब recent है. 18 में डोकलाम क्राइसिस, 20 में गलवान क्राइसिस एंड 22 में तवांग क्राइसिस. बट ऐसा नहीं है कि बहुत बीच का बहुत कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन ऐड किया हुआ है. दिस इवन यू कैन डू, राइट? दिस इज प्रीटी इजी. देन रीजंस फॉर टेंशन एट द बॉर्डर, वायलेशन ऑफ सीज फायर, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चरल बिल्डअप, सिक्योरिटी डायलेमा, देन predative hegemony, failure of border talks. Same ही बात है, it's very generic points. Then she draws a map, India-China border disputes. Okay, this is a tip. Wherever you feel your content is not strong, ना एक map बना दो. तुम basic तो बना ही सकते हो कि this is the western sector, you know this is the middle sector and this is the eastern sector. इसमें क्या मुश्किल है? Everybody knows about this, right? Then you can talk about the McMahon line and McDonald line, वहाँ पे mention कर दिया. ये तो basic है, ठीक है? And then role of ITBP in handling such situation, whatever was the demand of the question. ठीक है? You understood? So wherever you don't know, wherever you feel your content is not very strong, feel free to use maps and flowcharts. और कुछ नहीं तो at least visual appeal बढ़ा देता है, ठीक है? Economy, okay? Economics में तो बहुत देखो, there are various kinds of questions that can be framed in economy, right from trends, right from different 5-year plans, different patterns, LPG, बहुत कुछ आ सकता है. Economy is very vast. If you understand it, अगर आप सब्जेक्ट को पढ़ते हुए अंडरस्टैंड कर लोगे, इट विल बी ईजियर टू हैंडल सच टॉपिक्स. If you write about important economic indicators, it will be good. If you give trends, that will be great. You can talk about recent budget or economic survey ke data, whatever you have read. The survey and budget, the videos are available on YouTube, vision videos. The summaries are available for free on the website. Feel free to pick it up and just mug up some important data points. Graphs and charts, if you can, it adds value. And then again, economy में भी socio-economic aspects उसका देखना है, right? So let's say again this question. No, rather I will show this question. Yes, this is again Srishti Dhabas's answer copy. Now mind you, she was already an RBI grade B officer, so economics is one of her strong points. Okay, but let's see this question. What factors have led to the recent acceleration in trend towards de-dollarization of the global economy? That means dollar is losing its value. Do you think the dollar will lose its dominance anytime soon? So she has underlined, do you think? वो आपसे पूछ रहा है examiner. So she has answered in yes and no. ठीक है? So पहले तो she mentions de-dollarization means the phenomena of dollar losing its significance as a global currency. For example, recently there is more towards yuan internationalization. Okay, factors leading to de-dollarization. Very quickly, she has just, देखो, you are running out of time. हर जगह बहुत beautification का time नहीं होता है. But at least you can mention the point. So she says geopolitical. So the rise of China, geostrategic, USA's exit from UNESCO and WTO Paris Agreement, geo-economic, due to US sanctions on Iran and Russia. So the countries which are trading with Iran and Russia need some currency swap agreements in which they don't have to depend on the dollar. Okay. So now dollar is losing its dominance soon, yes or no? So she says yes because of these points, no because of these points. Of course, economics is one of her strong areas, but still the way it has been written, you can clearly see. Okay, so agar exam mein time bhi kam hai, you can make it a little rough, that's perfectly fine. And finally, she talks about the conclusion. Hence, there are both possibilities as economy of the globe is in flux. Russia-Ukraine war and supply chain disruptions by COVID. Only time will tell whether dollar prevails or there is a demise. ऐसे करके लिखा हुआ था last में. ठीक है? So again, this is a balanced conclusion. She has not taken a stand कि dollar रहेगा या नहीं रहेगा. Only time will tell. ठीक है? So that tells us that you can always have a balanced opinion about things. Okay? Similarly, regarding environment and disaster management, latest policies, international conventions, unka impact, disaster management is clearly linked with your geography. So cloudburst, landslide, tsunami, ये सब उसी में cover हो जाएगा. वो क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है, उनके recent examples, 1 or 2 diagrams if you can draw, that will be great. All right. Achievements made under some schemes. So for example, National Clean Air Program की achievements के बारे में पूछा था. There's a lot of discussion about air pollution. So this is a general question that will crop up in the mind of any normal person in India, especially in NCR, that what is the government doing about this, right? And why is it not successful, or is it successful, or how much have we done? So this is a clear case of policy evaluation or scheme evaluation type of questions. And of course diagrams always help in disaster management, geography, all those kind of questions. Okay. Finally, the main crux of this exam is not so much in writing one perfect answer, but it is in managing the whole syllabus so that you can write average, decent to average answers in all your answers. And you don't have to miss an answer. अगर आपने जहाँ पे भी, so for example, let's say on an average, there are 20 questions, okay? Out of which 10 questions will be 10 markers, ठीक है? And 15 questions, 10 questions will be 15 markers. So this is 150 marks, totals 250, right? So अगर आपको हर क्वेश्चन में मान लो 10 मार्कर में you are getting 4 4 4 4 at an average, ठीक है? आपने 2 क्वेश्चन 10 मार्कर के छोड़ दिए और 2 क्वेश्चन आपने 15 मार्कर के छोड़ दिए, तो 4 और 4 8 तो वैसे ही कहीं चले गए, ठीक है? एंड 15 में भी even if you get an average of 7 7.5, okay, then 15 marks is gone here. 8 and 15 is 23 marks in one paper. You are way back in the ranks. बहुत फर्क है, बहुत ज़्यादा डिफरेंस है. The scramble for marks is एक एक दो नंबर का. You cannot afford to do that. Versus अगर आप कोई एक आंसर बहुत अच्छा भी लिख लोगे, हद से हद उसमें मान लो 10 मार्कर में आपको 4 की जगह 5 मिल जाएगा, बहुत एक्सेप्शनल केसेस में 5 5.5 मिल जाएगा. बट इफ यू आर लीविंग 2 आंसर्स फॉर दिस 1 आंसर, you are losing more than gaining. You are maybe gaining 1.5 marks extra, but you are losing almost 8 marks. So it's better to write all answers थोड़ा एवरेज. मान लो 8 भी नहीं मिलते, मान लो तुमने 2 बहुत गंदे आंसर लिखे, एक सुपर लिखने की बजाय, rather than writing 1 exceptionally great answer and spending too much time on it, you have written 2 average answers. तो भी you are getting a +6 here. Here you are only getting a +1.5 maximum. So UPSC is a game of averages. Average में सब अच्छा चलना है, average में सब अच्छा करना है, ठीक है? कहीं पे exceptionally बहुत वो नहीं करना है और बहुत ज़्यादा down नहीं जाना है. Of course, it helps to score well in 1 or 2 papers. For example, if your optional is strong or if you're done well in essay, it helps in getting a good rank. It does. But leaving a question or 2 for writing a very good answer is not recommended. This is clear, I hope? Okay. So, your syllabus and management of your syllabus is important. How you schedule your time is very important. The examination, the scheduling, so basically time management in UPSC happens at 3 levels. One is your annual planning. So for example, most of you are planning to appear in 2026. How many subjects are there to study? At least 12 to 13. 3 तो हिस्ट्री के, 4 हिस्ट्री के हो गए, एंशियंट, मिडीवियल, कल्चर, मॉडर्न, ठीक है? दे आर ऑल 4 सेपरेट बुक्स, ठीक है? देन यू हैव ज्योग्राफी, एनवायरमेंट, देन पॉलिटी, इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस, साइंस एंड टेक, करेक्ट, इकोनॉमिक्स, करंट अफेयर्स. सो एट द at my fingers I can count about 14-15 subjects. And how much time are you left with? Barely 14-15 months, which means you have only 1 month per subject, including revisions, including tests, including answer writing. You don't have much time. Please don't be under this impression that you have a lot of time. So even if you are planning to appear in 2026, revision at least January, February से तो start कर दोगे ना? So your first reading, your proper preparation, mugging up everything, sorting of the syllabus has to be done by this year December end. We are already mid of March. So how much time do you have left? You barely have 10 months, less than that. Okay, so 10 months for let's say 12 subjects, which means you hardly have 3 weeks per subject. And you have optional also, you have essay also. तो मेंस पे तो हम गए नहीं, उसमें तो डिजास्टर मैनेज भी है, इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी, एथिक्स भी है, ठीक है? तो द The name of the game is time management. 1, on an annual basis. 2, on a daily basis. How you're managing your time on a daily basis, right? What you're doing, how you're effectively managing your time. Less is more. Please don't try to do too much. You will end up doing nothing. कम करो पर थोड़ा करो लेकिन करते जाओ. Consistency. Okay? Look, it's not even the lightest of load. If I have to, let's say, pick up a feather in my hand. If I hold this feather for 1 minute, it will be very easy. If I have to hold it for 1 year, it will be very difficult. Okay? So even the lightest of loads can become a huge burden in the long term. So कम उठाने की कोशिश करो और लंबा उठाने की कोशिश करो so that you retain it for a longer period. All right? And then finally, of course, on the day of the examination, how you manage the 3 hours. So time management in UPSC happens at 3 levels. We've already seen the date sheet, we've discussed that. Let's talk a little bit about presentation skills, how you can differently show your data, how you can manage your data differently. So for example, जैसे हमने linear cause and effect दिखाना है, or if we want to show a timeline, this happened, then this happened, जैसे हमने वो डोकलाम वाला भी देखा था सृष्टि का आंसर, we can talk about that. So we talk about Rio Summit, then Kyoto Protocol happened, then Paris Agreement happened. You can show it like this also, you can show it like this also. Linear format. Of course, this takes more space in the examination, so not really recommended. Or you can show the arrow here like this. Okay, the different phases, moderate phase, extreme, Gandhian, and then if you want to show the examples of the leaders, ऐसे करके भी हम लिख सकते हैं, ठीक है? These are different ways of presentation. So what is cause and effect? This happened, then this happened. So for example, threat to culture and livelihood, there is a feeling of relative deprivation, subject to realization of objective, and then resentment in the people, which causes regionalism. So something like that. You can also show circular relationship or multiple dimensions of a problem. So factors affecting well-being, they can be social, they can be political, economic, and others. So you can either represent it like this, or you can represent it like this, or this. Simple. Circular relationship, or maybe different dimensions, it can be shown in this manner. Similarly, sorry, maps. Maps are very important. I keep telling my students, don't worry so much about the map. देखो, this is a map of a topper. दिख रहा है ये? It's not to scale. यहाँ तक कि even North America भी नहीं लग रहा है वो देखने में. ठीक है? But it doesn't matter. Examiner will obviously, if it is better, it's clearer, then it's okay. But अगर नहीं भी है तो it's okay. Everybody understands you're running out of time. So she has tried to show here, I don't know whose answer copy this is, but has tried to show the maybe La Nina effect or El Nino effect, right? So Peruvian current दिखा दिया, warm water conditions दिखा दी. So what is happening at a global scale? Similarly, same thing. Medha Anand, rank 13, figure showing La Nina conditions. Again, India, Southeast Asia, South America, और बस vaguely सा draw कर दिया Australia. कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, इट्स ओके. एग्जामिनर को ये नहीं देखना आपने कितना ब्यूटीफुल, उसको पता होना चाहिए आपने कंडीशंस ठीक ला नीना की दिखाई हैं कि नहीं. ऑलराइट, क्लियर? एंड यू कैन ऑल्सो शो pyramid relationship, different. Alright, you can talk about that. Pyramid relationship is also there. Also, जैसे ये अनिमेश का ये आंसर है related to different dimensions of food security. Food security means you are talking about access to food. पहली बात तो food available होना चाहिए, production हो. Then it should be accessible. You should be able to buy it when you want. Second is it should be affordable. It should be within the reach of your pocket. ऐसा नहीं market में है लेकिन the prices are sky high. Okay. And third is food nutrition. So fourth is food nutrition. So these are the different dimensions of food security. So you can show it like this. Food availability ke points, accessibility ke points, positive, negative. This answer clearly shows this is rank 2. In fact, to be honest, Animesh's answers are very good. They are very relevant, very good, and he has written a lot of data, points, schemes, everything. Animesh ke answers में बहुत ज़्यादा specific points हैं. It's not very generic. Okay. So this actually goes on to show an answer copy of somebody who's very well prepared versus somebody who writes this answer like a story in an essay format, like passages or paragraphs that will never be impressive, चाहे वो ये सब points ही लिखे, and it will become too long. So to write more in less words, this is the way to go about it. Clear? And finally, what does the examiner not expect from you? What does he does not expect? He does not expect calligraphy, best of handwritings, उन्हें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, बस पढ़ना चाहिए. It should be easy to read. It should be legible. Second is, he does not expect long verbose sentences. This is happening because of the effect of caused by so and so. No. The tone of your answers should be na 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 na. इससे ज़्यादा तुम्हारा लंबा sentence नहीं होना चाहिए. मुझे पढ़ते हुए that should be the tune in my brain. Not like and where am I going? I'm lost. ठीक है? Short sentences, crisp sentences. Next is perfect maps and sketches. Obviously we've seen they are not expecting, and too much elaboration they don't want. If they know you know, तो वो दिख रहा है. It is clearly visible in the answers that you know it. You don't have to go on explaining something. All right? And finally, how would you enjoy your preparation? These are the best years of your life. These are the best years of your life where you have almost zero responsibilities because your parents, your family members are taking care of you. You don't have children, right? And you don't have dependents. Most of you don't. But this is the career building phase of your life, which means a little effort at this point in time can go a long way in shaping what you do and what you become for the rest of your life. These days, irrespective of whether you get selected or not, you will always remember, always. चाहे तुम्हारा सिलेक्शन हो या ना हो, तुम्हें क्लियरली याद रहेगा मैंने उस अटेम्प्ट में उस महीने में क्या किया था. Alright, so please be sincere with yourself. Make a sincere attempt. Failure and success is obviously not in your hands, but at least sincerity is. Okay, so stick to standard sources. बहुत ज़्यादा यहाँ वहाँ मटीरियल में खोने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. बेसिक बुक्स हैं, everybody does that. Stick to that. Finish that. Do it properly. Identify keywords of every topic और बस उसी को याद करो. फिर आंसर राइटिंग करो. फिर जो फाइंडिंग होती है ना वो धीरे धीरे अपने आप होती जाएगी. Slow and steady always wins the race. This is true for everything in life. Okay. Self-assessment, write tests, MCQ based tests, answer writing tests. जितने टेस्ट लिखोगे उतना तुम्हें अच्छा लगेगा. You will see the improvement. Otherwise, you can only improve what you can measure. If you don't measure, you will never know how you have improved. All right. And finally, take it easy. ऐसे ही पढ़ने का है. Chill करके एकदम. ठीक है? Clear? Just relax, enjoy your preparation, and there is nothing overwhelming about this examination that you cannot do. You can do a lot of things. जो standard sources हैं वो तो तुम्हें बता ही दिए. जो ऐसे articles कुछ आते हैं ना newspapers में, an overview of the smart cities mission or explained के articles, this is very handy. It comes in your preparation. अब smart cities के बारे में अगर ये article है, this article will tell you what was the smart cities mission, उसके main 2 points क्या थे, ठीक है, what is the status currently क्या हो रहा है, then it will tell you about where did it falter, ये क्यों successful नहीं हुआ, correct, and what more can be done. So देखो अब जैसे in India according to World Bank 49% of the population lives in slums. These articles are gold mines. These kind of articles are gold mine. Pick up points from them, रख लो, ये कहीं भी use हो सकते हैं. You can use these points anywhere in any answer, whether it is related to urban poor, whether it is related to employment, whether it is related to cities, right? So हर जगह it can be used. So please don't miss reading such articles. They are absolute gold mines in your preparation. And another gold mine is every year end, PIB पे every ministry releases a year-end review. Every year, every ministry releases a year-end review. It's a very long, one-page article, but very long, in which all the achievements of the ministry are mentioned. कि किस स्कीम में क्या हुआ. So for example, this is related to Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. तो इसमें हमको projects कितने worth so many crores ये सब नहीं पढ़ना है. We don't have to pick up the data. We have to remember the schemes. कि अमृत है, प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना अर्बन है, तो हम अर्बन पुअर पे क्वेश्चन था तो हम ये लिखेंगे. Clear? So at one page you will find all the schemes or flagship initiatives of the ministry. It can't get easier than this. कहीं जाने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं. ठीक है? So for example, if we are in 25, तो 24 का भी year end review होगा. You can go and check that. It will be there on the website PIB. Clear? So at one stop solution, you will get all the details related to what the ministry is doing. So with this, we come to an end of the class or discussion on answer writing. I hope I have managed to give you some perspective on how the preparation has to be done. My only final words are, less is more. Don't try to do too much together. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.